Greetings and welcome to the world of Dippy Egg. And lately I've been having these thoughts where I really like clownfish, but there's no like clownfish simulation video games. But then I realized we had a clownfish simulation movie by Pixar in 2003 called Finding Nemo, and there's video games based on that. So we're gonna take a look at Finding Nemo on the Game Boy Advance, and I bet it's good. Upon starting up this game and vibing to the ambient title screen tune, the first red flag is apparent right away. There's no saving in this game. You use a password. I mean, at this point in my world of games that I take a look at, this is far from the first time, and it's probably far from the last time, but geez, a 2003 video game should have some sort of save method. Thankfully, the password is only 4 characters, but still, I digress, I guess. Before each level, you're greeted with screenshots of the movie with the plot. So if you've never seen Finding Nemo for some reason, you can be filled in on the lore in the, let's be real, worst way possible. They look fine for what they are. This game is a side-scroller for the most part, where you obviously play as the characters from the movie, and your first objective is to get to school while getting interrupted by Nemo's pain-in-the-ass dad every 30 seconds to teach you how to play the game. The game is more hand-holdy than Pokemon Sun and Moon, jeez. Okay, maybe not that hand-holdy. Throughout the level, you swim through these rings, but they're only really there for the bonus games in between stages to give you more chances at the match game. You can swim and do dashes. The dashes can somehow blow through rocks. Like, Nemo doesn't push the rock out of the way, he blows through it. Damn, bro, that tiny ass fin really gives this clownfish like superpowers. Meanwhile, there's a lot of minor puzzle elements, such as like finding a pearl to give to a clam that's blocking your way because you're only in 2 dimensions despite being a fish, or whatever. I get it. And you gotta avoid the random fish and the evil clams that are out to get you. Yeah, there's nice clams that you give pearls to, and then there's mean clams. Thankfully, this game is a kid's game, so it's pretty easy overall. You know, you just start out and there isn't a limit on lives. You get some health, and if you die, you just start the level over. Nothing too bad. You can also recover health via the anemone. Other than that, this is a pretty linear game, and you beat the level and you hear a tune that sounds like it's the end of a song by the Beatles when they did Lots of Acid. In between the levels, you got a card matching game like I mentioned previously, and if you clear the board, you unlock a photo. I mean, it's nothing mandatory, it's just a completionist goal of sorts. I guess it's a palate cleanser kinda, I suppose. Complete with kids either groaning when you don't match or cheering when you do. Oh my god. The second level has you at the school with that Manta Ray, and he tells you to find the other students who, canonically, I don't think Nemo has met yet. Yeah, that's a great teacher you got there. Just send your student to retrieve people he's never met before. But it's pretty much the same idea as the first level, only instead of Marlon being a hand-holding dickhead, you're just hunting for your 3 classmates. Like I said, easy enough. Level 3 has them at the drop-off, and they made this lengthy, elaborate stage for the scene where Nemo touches the butt. And I like that when he touches the butt, that music plays. Following that is the next level where Marlin meets Dory. It's introduced with screenshots of Nemo getting captured, and then you're brought into a new kind of level where you have to follow Dory, and we're presented to some Mode 7, baby. Okay, this is the Game Boy Advance, but still, it's kind of impressive for what it is. I mean, it's not much today, but I bet in 2003, I would look at this and be like, oh, that's neat. You basically follow Dory, and you swim through rings if you so desire, and while doing it, you need to mash the A button to keep up, which is not very fun, but whatever. At least it looks kind kind of neat. But once you get through Dory's head that she needs to remember you, you then meet Bruce the shark, who invites you to vibe with him and the homies, but insists that you swim through a bunch of explosive mines. It's back to the side-scrolling method, and it's fine enough. I mean, there's nothing really too difficult here. You get to the meeting, which in retrospect is essentially the shark version of an AA meeting, which kind of went over my head as a kid, and they ask you to find the other fish they invited, once again hunting for a character that your character has literally never met before. The way you do this is by progressing through a maze, and by golly, I guess Finding Nemo is a Metroidvania now. Okay, maybe that's a stretch, but it's sort of got elements from it. You just flick switches to get through. It's basic stuff and requires little to no thought. Unfortunately, this series of events causes the shark to relapse onto his diet of wanting to eat fish. By the way, the context of Bruce relapsing in this game, which in the movie is due to the fact that Dory gets a nosebleed from those swimming goggles, is literally omitted from this game. So this plot line of this game literally goes from, hey, I found goggles, to Bruce just randomly being like, must eat fish. Yeah, you could have just taken 1 second out of your day to elaborate. And you're followed by what is the start of something a little spicier. You basically run away from the shark, and let me tell you, that shark is terrifying looking. I don't know what it is, but maybe it's the 32 bits, but that's scarier than an actual shark if you ask me. Basically, you move up and down to avoid the walls, and there's very little room for error. In fact, I'd go as far as to say that this is a level of trial and error, where you need to memorize the layout of the level perfectly, because honestly, you move pretty slow and the controls aren't the best, not to mention you have to mash the dash button the whole time again. And one goof up and you get eaten. Fast forward to the next stage, which is Nemo in the fish tank in Australia. They tell you to meet everyone, and you have to do very minor objectives to trigger the characters showing up. Why couldn't they just be graceful hosts and just invite you? Also, who are these people in the photo? They don't look like Pixar people. They look like real people. Is this the team that made the game? Is this who I should yell at for subjecting me to that terrible shark chase stage earlier? I don't know. But if so, I'm very mad at y'all. So you meet everybody, and then you got a stage where you get hazed, I guess, and the ritual is just swimming through some red rings in a short amount of time. It's mega easy, but you might fail once or twice just because it's not really good at letting you know where the next ring is. So go back to Marlin and Dory. They found goggles with the address of where Nemo is at on them, and you're thrown into another basic level, not unlike the first few, and you find that anglerfish, and you have to run away from it mode 7 style while Dory tries to read the address very, very slowly. Side note, that anglerfish is also very terrifying looking. Thankfully, avoiding it's pretty easy, and for Christ's sakes, Dory, it's P. Sherman 42 Wallaby Way, Sydney. Fast forward to the next level, and you got Nemo playing mini games as training of sorts. You got 3 mini games that you gotta do twice each, and they're all kind of dreadful. The first one, you have to bump the pufferfish, who looks more like a potato, through the rings, but the controls are kind of absurd and the potato never goes where you want it to go. The next one's kind of like a Kaboom style mini game where you capture the bubbles from the treasure chests. This one's fairly easy, but if you miss one bubble, that insane fish tells you to eat crap and you gotta try it again. The third one's perhaps the worst one. The prawn wants you to hit pearls that get thrown into the air into the aquarium piece, and the pearl never seems to go where you want it to. I eventually figured out that if you stand still in the spot where you start in the level, you should get it every time with the right timing. But man, this was not good. Then we got another maze sort of level, only inside of the wide array of jellyfish, and you need to find Dory. I don't know what it is, but this level is a vibe. I like the colors and the aesthetic. What if we just vibed in the jellyfish level and Finding Nemo on the GBA? But this one's fairly straightforward too. Big surprise, and at the end you find Dory and she's dead. Oh, but don't worry, we get spicier than ever after that. This part has you enter into the pipes of the filter, much like the movie where Nemo's goal was to lodge a rock into the fish tank filter so it gets filthy, so they have to clean it so they can escape. But in the movie, he did it moderately fast, and I bet it wasn't nearly as painful to do. Obviously, simplistic maze levels are commonplace in this game. It's kind of the bread and butter, nothing new here, but you have to work around currents, and you drop your pebble in certain spots and retrieve it elsewhere to get through, since for some reason the pebble makes Nemo blow away? Yeah, I don't know either. But of course, to get down certain pipes, you have to painfully button mash non-stop, all while looking at that photo of who I think might be the devs. This might be who you blame for this, but I can't verify. The worst part is this tunnel at the end. I don't know if maybe I'm doing it wrong, but it seemed like the only way to actually do it was to drop the pebble, swim by it, try to grab it while swimming by it, in hopes of quickly dropping it slightly further down the tube. Most of the time, doing that just resulted in getting pushed back, but after a bunch of tries, it did work. Kinda seems like an exploit you'd do to a speedrun game, not something that you would actually have be mandatory for completing a game. Ugh. Then you got the part where Marlin and Dory ride Crush, the sea turtle who absolutely smokes weed when he's on land, and it's yet another mode 7 button mash and follow the character sort of level. This one's pretty strict compared to the previous ones with the button mashing, and if you don't consistently do it, you automatically lose. And then you just get a lackluster ending. I mean, we have 2 levels after this, but they're both basic maze stages again, where you gotta flick switches to get through to the end, and the switches change the airflow of the pipes. You know, you have Nemo going through the sewer system of Sydney, I assume, and trying to get out to the ocean. The first one is pretty straightforward, but the last one requires you to hunt down a pearl that you have to give to a clam in order to progress further. Finally, you find Dory, and side note, thank God there isn't a Finding Dory game. And you just make your way to the end of the level, avoiding enemies. It's pretty modest and a pretty casual level, complete with music that you really wouldn't expect from such a mellow stage. Finish that, you beat the game, and then you never have to play Finding Nemo on the GBA again. Good times for all. Okay, so Finding Nemo on the Game Boy Advance, it wasn't all it was cut out to be, but that happens a lot. Sometimes the handheld counterpart is just washed down in comparison to the console version, so that's where we gotta go. Finding Nemo on the PlayStation 2. Oh, I bet this is good. I mean, I never hear anyone talk about it, but it's a greatest hits edition. That means it sold well. That means people bought this, so it must be great, right? But hey, how about something a little more technologically advanced? Finding Nemo on the PS2 is here to deliver, also released on the GameCube and the Xbox and the PC. And this time, we don't just have still images to tell the lore, and we even have a trailer for the movie, so I really can't wait for this movie to come out on May 30th. In between levels, you are greeted by scenes from the movie, and as you could guess, it's a more advanced looking game, but it's kind of the same idea. Start off with a side-scrolling stage where you have to get to school, just like the Game Boy Advance one, but hey, we got actual dialogue here.
Okay, I'll meet you there. Why don't you try to swim through all those rings of bubbles on the way?
Ah, yes. Exactly like the movie. But this game seems to be sort of a 2.5D deal at times, with some 3D segments mixed in. Meet your classmates, and you only have to hunt down one of them this time. At least that kind of makes sense. And you're rewarded with a really bad stage where you have to race your classmates. Oh lord. But of course, we get to more 3D levels as well, complete with insta-kill enemies that you don't even see until the last second, and lots of swimming through rings. And that's when I realized that certain rings are more necessary. Now, in the Game Boy Advance one, you had random rings, but they were, for the most part, just like bonus points to help you in the mini games in between the stages. But in these chase levels, they're mandatory for winning the stages. You can miss a few here and there, but you need to consistently go through them because apparently they speed you up or something. Even the boat level is more elaborate than before, and after you touch the butt, there's a stage where you run from a diver who captures Nemo. That's not how the movie went at all, but and he still catches Nemo anyway, so you just wasted your time. Then you proceed with Marlin looking for Nemo and the stage where he finds Dory, complete with the you have to swim through these rings to beat the level shtick. This is arguably worse though, because the stage just kind of goes in circles until you do it perfectly, as opposed to just dying if you get too far behind. The following level is that again, because Dory has bad memory, haha. Oh, but wait, no. You have to do 3 of these levels. The third one makes you go into these lobster traps that you have to bust through. Jesus, way to stretch out the content. But surely after that, they switch it up. Well, kind of. It's, once again, swim through the rings, but you follow a different character this time, and you play as Dory instead of Marlin. And you just follow that stupid shark. Thankfully, after that, we get something new, but it's so ridiculous that it makes my brain want to explode. Now, obviously, through the shark one, we were avoiding these, like, mines because, well, if you touch them, you blow up. It's like that in the Game Boy Advance game as well. And after you catch up with Bruce, he's just like, oh yeah, you can just jump on them a few times before they explode. What? So you have to navigate through these mines by bouncing on them like they're trampolines or something, but certain routes straight up lead you to dead ends. And to make it worse, the controls are somehow non-functional a bunch of the time. So I had a lot of unfair deaths this way. Like, when you try to move, sometimes it just doesn't move. I don't get it. Dory, you stupid sack of shit, this is very dangerous. Oh, and if you want to complete this game 100%, it seems that you have to manage to jump on every mine in this level without dying. Jesus, dude. And then when you die, it's like a parody of some action movie that I can't put my finger on or something. I'm pretty sure it is, at least, but I don't watch movies that don't have talking fish in them, so I don't know. But then we get to the final level. Not the final level of the actual game, but the final level that I was able to get to. After that is yet another chase the character and swim through the rings level, in case we didn't have enough of those already. This time, though, you need to avoid the mines that you were able to bounce on 3 minutes ago because they're insta-death now. Not to mention, like I mentioned, these rings are mandatory. On paper, it seems playable. And, you know, that's fine. But, oh no. No, this is bad. At certain parts of this stage, the current gets very heavy and pushes you to one side, and it's damn near impossible to swim through it. You have to literally memorize what directions the currents are going, when they're going, and even then, you're likely to miss a ring because the hit detection on the rings is abhorrent. I have no idea why anyone thought this was a good idea, but, like, it's literally unplayable, and I don't use that term lightly. This is literally Superman 64, but with water. And the thing that baffles me is a few things. One, this game literally sold 5 million copies among all the platforms it was released on. But being an avid game collector who's had many discussions of the worst of the worst, I've never once heard this game come up in discussion. Secondly, most game journalists gave this game like a 6 or so. A 6 is kind of what you give like a meh game with flaws, but what kind of crack are these journalists smoking to think that this is a 6 out of 10? I've played many games in my life, especially in this generation between the PS2, GameCube, and Xbox, and while I have played some stinkers for sure, I'm genuinely struggling to think of a game from this generation of consoles that is legitimately worse than Finding Nemo. At least that was released in North America. Crap like Little Britain and Dinosaur Adventure were PAL only, and quite frankly, they were just released to make a quick buck. And yes, Finding Nemo is likely a cash grab as well, obviously, but other Pixar games are playable. Toy Story 2 on the PS1 is a legitimately good game. Bug's Life on PS1 and N64 is fine. So, what's going on here? I mean, sure, water plus games usually means a bad time, but not this bad. The Aquaman game is regarded as one of the worst and is based in water, but I don't even think that disaster is this bad. Not even close. I don't know, but I'm gonna tap out of here, y'all. Okay, so it was the worst game ever. Whoops. I guess what they say is true. Games are food, not friends. Alright. This one goes out to the stupid Game Boy Advance one. And this one goes out to the stupid PS2 one. Well, maybe I should have played Shark Tale instead. No, that's probably not a good idea.